Growth is not just an option. It is the lifeblood of your existence. Everything around you is either moving forward or breaking down. There is no pause button in nature. The trees are either stretching their roots deeper into the soil or withering away. The rivers are either carving new paths or drying up under the sun. And you, your mind, your skills, your spirit, are either expanding or decaying. The moment you stop stretching yourself, the moment you choose to stay exactly where you are, you begin a slow, silent death. It will not feel like death at first. It will feel like comfort, like peace, like relief. But comfort is a liar. It whispers to you that you're safe, while beneath the surface it is quietly draining your strength, your hunger, your reason for waking up in the morning. Comment, never stop growing if you refuse to let your fire go out. Growth hurts. There is no way around it. It will tear apart old beliefs you thought would stand forever. It will strip you of habits you've carried like armor, exposing your weaknesses. It will demand that you let go of people, places, and even versions of yourself that no longer belong to the life you are building. But that pain is not the pain of injury. It is the pain of transformation. It is the soreness after a hard workout. It is the sting of cold water before your body adjusts. It is the pressure that shakes the diamond. And if you avoid that pressure, you avoid becoming who you were meant to be. The problem is that most people do not recognize when they have stopped growing. It doesn't happen with a loud crash or a sudden event. It happens quietly. A skipped opportunity here, a fear you don't confront there, a promise to yourself you break just this once. And then, without noticing, your life begins to shrink to fit the limits you've accepted. Your dreams get smaller, your goals get safer, your vision gets dimmer. You call it being realistic, but it's not realism, it's surrender. Life will not wait for you to start again. The world moves forward with or without you. While you hesitate, someone else is taking the opportunities you said maybe later to. While you stay in the familiar, someone else is stepping into the unknown and growing into the person you wish you were brave enough to become. And every day that passes, the gap between who you are and who you could be gets wider. You must draw a line in the sand and make a promise that you will never stop evolving. Not for comfort, not for fear, not for anyone who doesn't see what you're capable of. The day you stop learning, you stop leading. The day you stop striving, you stop living. The day you stop growing is the day you start dying. And if you understand this truth, you know that you cannot afford to wait another second. Growth starts now, and it never ends. Stagnation disguises itself well. At first it feels like rest after a long battle. It feels like you've earned the right to slow down, but rest is supposed to recharge you, not replace the climb. True rest comes with the intention to rise again. Stagnation comes with no intention at all. That's why it's so dangerous. It doesn't announce itself as decay. It arrives dressed as balance, peace, or maintenance. And by the time you realize you've stopped moving, months, sometimes years, have already passed, and your fire has been reduced to embers. When you stop growing, you stop noticing the possibilities around you. Opportunities that once lit your eyes now pass you by without a second thought. You stop asking questions. You stop challenging your own thinking. You stop stretching your limits. And little by little, the ceiling you once planned to shatter becomes the prison you live under. It's not that you can't break it anymore. It's that you've convinced yourself it's not worth the effort. That's how growth dies. Not with an explosion, but with quiet neglect. If you want to stay alive in the truest sense, you must become addicted to expansion. The hunger to become more must outweigh the temptation to stay the same. That means you seek discomfort intentionally. You pursue knowledge like your life depends on it, because it does. You don't settle for good enough, because good enough is the enemy of greatness. Growth is not about speed, it's about direction. Even a small step forward is better than standing still, but no step at all is a betrayal to the person you are capable of becoming. And every day you betray that person, it becomes harder to return to the path. The people who build legacies never stop growing, not when they've achieved success, not when the world praises them, not even when they've surpassed their original goals, because they know the day they slow down is the day someone else hungrier will take their place. The greatest danger in stopping your growth is that it doesn't just affect your future. It rewrites your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a builder, a learner, a fighter. You start seeing yourself as someone who used to do big things. You start talking about your best days as if they're behind you. That shift in identity is the most dangerous death of all, because once you stop believing in your ability to grow, you no longer even try. Growth is the constant renewal of self-belief. Every new skill you develop, every challenge you overcome, every lesson you master, it's all proof that you're still in the fight. And you need that proof, because life will throw moments at you where you feel unqualified, unprepared, and overwhelmed. Without the habit of growth, those moments will crush you. With it, you'll see them as opportunities to rise higher. This is why growth must be intentional. You cannot leave it to chance. You must schedule it into your days. Feed your mind with knowledge. Train your body with discipline. Test your spirit with challenges that scare you. Growth does not happen accidentally. It is built by design. And here's the truth. Most people won't admit. Growth requires you to kill parts of yourself, not physically, but mentally. You must let the weaker version of you die so the stronger one can live. You must bury the excuses, the laziness, the fear, and the entitlement. You must decide that the old you is no longer welcome in the life you're building. If you do not make that decision, the old you will come back stronger, and when it does, it will drag you into a life smaller than you ever imagined. Look at the most powerful forces in nature. They are relentless. Rivers never stop flowing. The wind never stops moving. The sun never stops rising. That is the pace of life. It is constant movement. And the moment you remove yourself from that rhythm, you begin to erode. People think they can press pause on their growth and return later, but growth doesn't work that way. Life keeps moving whether you do or not. And when you try to return after years of standing still, you find yourself far behind, out of shape, and unprepared for the demands of the moment. That's why so many give up. The climb back feels impossible. The only way to avoid that fate is to never stop moving forward, even in small ways, even in ways no one sees. Growth is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's the quiet work done in the shadows, the early morning reading, the late night reflection, the extra repetition in the gym, the uncomfortable conversation you initiate because it will make you better. But if you want that growth to last, you must protect it fiercely. Protect it from distractions. Protect it from the easy way out. Protect it from the voices, both inside and outside, that tell you you've done enough. Because the day you start listening to those voices is the day you start dying. Here's the hard truth. Growth will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you free time. It will cost you friendships that don't align with where you're going. It will cost you the version of yourself that the world finds easy to accept. And most people are not willing to pay that price. That's why most people live small. They live for weekends, for vacations, for temporary relief from a life that never changes. They live in a loop of repetition, calling it security, when really it's just a cage. And the longer they stay in it, the more they forget. There's even a world outside. But you are not here to live in a cage. You are here to break it apart, to take risks, to test your limits, to see how far you can go before the world tells you to stop, and then go further anyway. That is growth. It is rebellion against the slow death of mediocrity. And yes, it's exhausting. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it demands more from you than you think you can give. But every moment of discomfort you endure for the sake of growth is an investment in the life you are building. When you choose growth, you choose to live with purpose, and purpose will always be worth more than comfort. Growth requires humility. You must admit you don't know it all. You must be willing to learn from people younger than you, older than you, and completely different from you. You must be willing to be the student again, even when you've already been the teacher. Ego is the enemy of growth. It convinces you that you've arrived, that you've seen it all, that there's nothing left to learn. And the moment you believe that, your decline begins. The greatest leaders, the greatest innovators, the greatest warriors, they never stop learning because they never believe they've learned it all. To grow, you must also embrace failure as part of the process. If you cannot stand to fail, you cannot stand to grow. Failure is not the opposite of growth. It is the raw material from which growth is made. Every misstep is a lesson. Every setback is a test. And every time you get back up, you become harder to break. The ones who never grow are the ones who never risk failing. They stay in the shallow end of life where nothing dangerous happens and nothing extraordinary does either. You must be willing to drown in order to learn to swim in deeper waters. Your environment will either feed your growth or starve it. If you surround yourself with people who have stopped growing, you will slowly adopt their pace. You will start thinking their thoughts, accepting their excuses, and matching their limitations without even realizing it. Growth requires you to be among people who make you uncomfortable in the best way, people who are sharper, faster, hungrier, and more disciplined than you. Their very existence challenges you to rise. But this is where many fail. They cling to circles that keep them comfortable. They stay where they are, the smartest, the strongest, the most capable in the room, because it feels good to be ahead. What they don't realize is that this satisfaction is an anchor. Being the biggest in a small space is nothing compared to being the smallest in a space that forces you to expand. You must seek out those spaces. You must put yourself where you are, not the leader, where you are not the expert, where you have to work twice as hard to keep up. That is where the magic happens. That is where the growth is violent, rapid, and undeniable. And yes, it will bruise your pride. It will strip away your illusions, but it will replace them with something far greater, a hunger that cannot be satisfied and a capacity that keeps growing. If you want to live, not just exist, you must stop protecting your ego and start protecting your evolution. Growth is not a straight line. It is a series of rises and falls, wins and losses, breakthroughs and breakdowns. Too many quit in the breakdowns, not realizing that those are the moments that shape the most powerful versions of themselves. The pressure you feel in your worst days is the very thing that will expand you if you endure it. When you stop growing, it's often because you misunderstood pain. You thought it was a signal to stop when it was actually an invitation to adapt. The discomfort of growth is not a warning sign. It is a doorway, and most people turn away from it because it doesn't look like opportunity. Every time you run from that doorway, you miss the version of yourself waiting on the other side, and over time, those missed versions add up. They form a shadow life. The life you could have lived, the person you could have become, and living with that shadow is a heavier burden than any pain growth will ever cost you. The most dangerous decision you can make is not to face difficulty, because the moment you decide to avoid it, you decide to stay exactly where you are, and exactly where you are is already fading. The truth most people cannot swallow is that growth never stops because the battle against decay never stops. The forces pulling you backward are constant. Comfort, fear, laziness, distraction. If you are not actively pushing forward, you are losing ground. Think of it like standing on an escalator that moves down while you're trying to go up. The moment you stop climbing, you are carried backward. That is life. That is why you must stay in motion. But motion alone is not enough. You must move with purpose. Mindless activity can feel like growth, but it's often just disguised stagnation. You can be busy and still be shrinking. Growth comes from intentional, targeted, uncomfortable work. You must identify where you are weak and attack it relentlessly. You must find the edges of your knowledge and push past them. You must build skills that scare you because they expose what you don't know. If you live like this, you will be unrecognizable to the person you are today in a year, and that is the goal. Constant reinvention until you die. Growth changes more than your skills. It changes your vision. The higher you climb, the further you can see. And the further you can see, the bigger your goals become. This is why people who keep growing seem unstoppable. They are constantly expanding the size of their dreams, and in doing so, they keep expanding themselves. But if you stop growing, your vision shrinks. Your goals become about survival, not mastery. You stop reaching for the mountaintop and start settling for the hill. This is the silent tragedy of stagnation. It doesn't just keep you where you are. It actively lowers your ceiling. And once your vision shrinks, your actions follow. You stop pushing, you stop striving, you stop risking, and slowly the extraordinary life you once imagined fades into something ordinary, something safe, something small. The only way to protect your vision is to keep feeding it through growth. Keep exposing yourself to new ideas, new challenges, and new possibilities. Keep climbing so you can keep seeing more. Because the moment your vision stops growing, your life stops growing with it. People will tell you to be grateful for what you have, and you should be. Gratitude is essential, but do not confuse gratitude with complacency. You can be deeply grateful for your current blessings while still being committed to becoming more. Gratitude is about acknowledging what is. Growth is about pursuing what could be. And the two are not enemies, they are allies. Gratitude keeps you grounded, but growth keeps you alive. Without growth, gratitude turns into an excuse to stay still. The day you stop growing is the day your gratitude becomes a shield against responsibility. You start saying, "I'm happy where I am," when deep down you know you're avoiding the next challenge. That is not peace. That is fear in disguise. True gratitude for your life means honoring it by pushing your potential to the maximum. It means using your blessings as fuel to create more impact, more strength, more wisdom. Anything less is a betrayal to the gift of being alive. You must understand, no one drifts into growth. Drift leads to decline, not development. Growth requires steering, control, and deliberate effort. It is an act of will. This is why so few ever sustain it, because sustained growth demands constant self-awareness. You must regularly examine yourself with brutal honesty. Where am I improving? Where am I slipping? Where am I lying to myself? And most importantly, what am I doing about it? If you stop asking those questions, you stop seeing the truth. And once you stop seeing the truth, you can no longer grow. You become blind to your own decline. The most dangerous lies are not the ones others tell you. They are the ones you tell yourself to avoid the discomfort of growth. Lies like, "I'll start later, I've done enough. I'm already better than most." Those are the whispers that turn warriors into cowards. If you want to live, you must keep your hands on the wheel of your own evolution. You must be intentional every single day. You will never regret growing. You will never regret becoming wiser, stronger, faster, sharper. The only regret you will carry is the regret of standing still. The day you stop growing is the day you start dying, not physically, but in spirit, and a dead spirit can walk this earth for decades, pretending to be alive, going through the motions, waiting for life to happen instead of creating it. That is the fate of those who choose comfort over challenge, certainty over possibility, the known over the unknown. You are not meant for that. You are meant to be in constant pursuit of the next level. You are meant to test the limits of your own potential until the day your heart stops beating. And even then, let it be said that you died climbing. Push yourself when you want to stop. Learn when you feel like you already know. Enough, take the hard road when the easy one is right there in front of you. That is how you keep growing. That is how you keep living. If you've made it this far, drop a 100 in the comments. It shows you are part of the 1% that's improving every single day.